The bids are in, the gavel is dropped. Ladies and gentlemen, here at WineBid, we are finally hammered. That's right. This is WineBid's podcast, taking at all things wine value, wine retail, wine auctions, and just wine. My name is Jeff Gurn. I'm on the WineBid marketing team. With me, as always, is Paul Walker, the Pharaoh of Fiascos, our wine expert. Welcome to the podcast, Paul. We're going to be going through our
That doesn't make any sense, for one. And two, Pharaoh and Fiasco start with different letters, but
doesn't matter. It's the same sound. It's the same sound, and that's a thing. Obviously, you don't know about grammar, but you do know about
Fiasco. Plural is Fiaschi. So anyway.
Pharaoh of Fiaschi. Only a wine expert would know that. So we know that Paul is a wine expert, and that's why we're going to be talking about, we're doing an auction recap, okay? We're going to talk about everything that happened this last auction. And
we'll talk about select things that happened. There was,
Well, I wanted to talk about everything, but if you don't have time, I guess we can just talk about some select things. By the way, your internet is...
Yeah, it's tenuous at best, but that's as good as it gets.
Yeah. So Paul's essentially going to be pixelated today, like we're trying to hide his identity. All right, let's jump right into this. Really interesting. We had a lot of stuff, a lot of very reasonably priced stuff that saw a lot of action this week, right? Right at the top, we've got this non-vintage Franc Bonnevillet Grand Cru Pur Avisé Blanc de Blanc. We had two of them, 8 bids from 30 to selling at 43.
Yeah, I noticed last few weeks, there's been a lot of small production champagne that doesn't get a lot of attention or, doesn't get blown up like some of the other small growers and producers. And this is one of them, right? So started at $30. Yeah. I mean, I think still a deal at 40, whatever it is, 43. Not bad.
That's not bad at all. Some more champagne. 2016 Chateauneuf Tallet Extra Brut Le Corre. Two of those after 6 bids went from 70 to selling.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
110.
70 to what? 110.
Yeah. They sold for 110 a piece. So people are...
Yeah, those Chateau Taillé has a following, I would say a much bigger following than some of the other guys for sure.
Much bigger following, and we're butting up against New Year's Eve. So folks are trying to get their Chateau Taillé just in time for the New Year, which I cannot blame people. I can't blame them. I was going to say 2021 Rudy Pichler, Terrassen Riesling Smargad. 4 of those from 6 bids from 25.
Pichler. Rudy Pichler. It's
Pichler. 25 to 28. Not a huge movement, but it's like a 10% increase. I think it's really interesting.
That's great. That's a absolutely smoking deal. Like these, it's some of these Austrian wines that sort of even big producers. I mean, I wouldn't call it a big producer, but Pichler is well known. And it's still, that's still got to be less than retail for sure.
Yeah. That's going to be some amazing stuff. We've got this. This is interesting. 2019 Bartolo Mascarello Barolo. 3 of those, 5 bids. Yeah.
This is funny. These prices are kind of been confusing me because this wine, I think, kind of dropped in price fairly significantly because we've seen a lot of recent vintage Mascarello, and the 19, it was either like the 18 or 19 was in previously, and the price dropped a little bit. And then this one just got sort of bounced right back up to where the others have been kind of hammering somewhere between, $250 and $300. But I don't know, there still seems to be some fluctuation going on in Piedmont overall, especially with some other producers. Now, Bartolo Mascarello has a major following, and they're extremely great wines, and a lot of people want them. So it's not surprising, but it is a little funny that it got that many bids when pretty much almost every week we've got, several vintages of Bartolo Mascarello Barolo in the auction. Yeah. The one that I thought was pretty wild was the 75 Cuvée Cabernet. That's nuts. Did you see that?
Yes. 5 bids, 235 to 609.
609. Like that's a hefty price for Cuvée. I mean, those wines are never terribly expensive, but wow. I mean, yeah, if you look at the sales history, the last time it sold was for 170 just a couple of years ago. So that's a massive increase.
That's a huge move. I did want to mention, I mean, there wasn't a ton of action on it, but I thought it was funny. We had did we even talk about these? 2014 Bolio Vineyards Georgia State Latour Private Reserve Cabernet Sauvignon sold for $85. Right,
Mhm.
which is like well below what you can even buy them at retail. And
That's true.
like 10 years of age and well below retail.
Yeah,
Not, like I look
true.
at those things and I'm like, God, that like somebody actually got a pretty decent deal. The '05 Leoville Las Casas, which I actually was looking at this '05 Leoville Las Casas, started at 230, end up going.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting that it got bit up because this is a wine that's consistently, again, it's something we see very often. It was just in, I don't know, a week or two ago. I know there's some in this week too. Yeah, there was some in just the prior week in December 10th and a hammer for 230. So
Yes.
Why did it jump up, $50 to 270 or 40 and $50 respectively? I guess there were a couple different bottles, but it seems a little strange to me when it was just, hovering at 240 all year long. And all of a sudden,
forever. Yeah. It's just been like 235, 240.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everybody, wants some '05 Leoville Las Casas. I mean, I guess, part of it's probably the whole like, oh, well, the holidays are coming up and we want to get something in time for, Christmas or something like that.
Right. Last minute shoppers.
Last minute shoppers. Somebody like, oh, somebody really loves that '05 Leoville Las Casas. Maybe that's it. But, even so, like, it's just interesting to see that jump up like that. This '01 Tignanello started at 120, hammered at 170 after 5 bids.
Yeah, that's quite an increase. I was curious to look at history on that wine too. Because it actually, score-wise, it didn't do tremendously well. It wasn't a high-scoring vintage.
It was this wine.
Yeah, it was actually last month sold for 120.
120. So, yes, yeah. That's what I was just going to say. Last month it sold for $120.
And previously at 120 looks like quite consistently going back. So yeah, that's a strange one. Again, probably it's a bidding war for people that really wanted it for Christmas or something.
Everybody's, and you've got '08 Maurice Chapuis, Corton Charlemagne, 5 bids from 80 to 93.
That's a rare one, right? I think that's the only bottle of '08 we've at least in the last 10 years that we've sold. So that's a tough one to find.
We had a bottle of '05 Paolo B, Montefalco, Rosso.
Yeah, Bea wines are popular. And I think I flagged this because I thought it was so inexpensive. Because Bea wines, they've got a big following. And even though it's the Rosso, it's not a serious, one of the more, serious labels, shall we say. It's less complex than some of the other wines. But still, recent hammers were not, well, what did it sell for? Let's see. Yeah, it sold for 55. So yeah, it's jumped up kind of considerably since July, last time it was an auction.
Let's switch over and take a look at some of the heavy hitters, okay? There's a couple of bottles I believe we mentioned before. The 99 Lafite Rothschild 6 liter.
Yeah.
Sold for $48.
That was one of our picks.
That was one of our picks. And then the 6 liter of 99 Margaux for $33.20. I haven't even looked. But I was thinking to myself, I wonder if it's the same person as like, I'm having so many people over that I need 2 6 liters. But those are going to be killer party bottles to open up. Which, by the way, really quickly, I was online, one of the communities on somebody was like, oh, I think they were like, I've got a 9 liter of champagne I need to chill. How do I do it? And somebody goes, the only acceptable answer is a garbage can with ice and water. And that's the only way or unless you have like a walk-in. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. You need professional fridge for that.
Or a garbage can. With ice.
Yeah, or a pond or a kiddie pool or something that might work.
A pond or then we had an '03 Screaming Eagle Cabernet Sauvignon sold for $29.95. 95 Coche Charlemagne, Corton Charlemagne, sold for $28.75. And then a 6 bottle OWC of '06 Colton Estate Proprietary Red sold for $24.30. 6 liter of Schaefer '01 Hillside Select Cab, did we mention this one too?
Yeah, there was a big batch of Schaefer Hillside and Magnums,
right, with a bunch of large format,
or early 2000s vintages or something. And I remember seeing the 3 and the 6 liter of the '01, and that's pretty serious.
Yeah, this one sold for $2,400. We had 2 bids on the '07 Colgan Estate Proprietary Red.
Yeah, Colgan again, it continues to be extremely popular. It's funny, the '06, sold, what was it, 2430 hammers. So that's what, $600 a bottle. I mean, that's amazing, because this stuff is just continuously climbing and getting a lot of attention.
Yeah,
in auction. So I don't know. Yeah, there's a real, no, excuse me, 400 something bucks a bottle. What am I talking about? I can't add, because it was in not too long ago 2280, and previously last couple of years ago was just over 2000. So there's been a lot of fluctuation in Colgan pricing over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, but they're definitely on the rise these days again, just kind of like Bond.
74 Heights. Martha's Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon sold for $20.
Yeah, that one went fast. That was one of my picks last week.
Yeah, we talked about this last week. Yeah. What's interesting is we've seen that bottle 4 other times this year. 3 of the times we saw it sold for $23.50, but in January, at the very end of January 2023, sold for $11.15.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it made a huge jump between January of this year. Well, I guess it's been jumping around, and maybe part of it is just bottle condition, but like in November, it sold for $7.65. Then in December, a bottle sold for $22.50. Then in January, a bottle sold for $11.15. And then since then, it's gone for $23.50.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It does seem to matter condition-wise a little bit, but not tremendously, because the last couple bottles were pretty much just about the same, high shoulder or top shoulder fills, and a hammer for the same price. So, but this bottle looked pretty great. So
we had, interestingly enough, we had some really interesting Bordeaux sell through. 92 Petrus sold for $1,900. 59 Aubryon sold for $1,875, and then an 81 and 83 Petrus sold. The 81 for $1,850, and the 83 for $1,840. And that 79 Salon sold for $1,816.
Yes, it looks like a couple bottles left too. Like not all 3 bottles sold, but
just one of the bottles of that Salon, and there's still some 73 Salon as well. One of those sold for $1,800. Yeah,
did you see this crazy? I actually just noticed this. I didn't see this before, and I think our colleague Sterling pointed this out to me. There was a bottle of Pedro Domecq 51 1A over 30-year-old very rare Amontillado sherry that started at $90 and got bid up to $850.
Oh, geez. Whoa.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I'm not sure like what the deal is with this wine. I think he actually looked it up and said it's not, necessarily that expensive at retail if you can find it, but it looked like it was just a crazy bidding war between 2 individuals, and they just were battling it out, and it hammered eventually at $850.
Wait a second. This bottle last sold on December 10th, 2023 for $90. So
there you go.
Paul, hear me out. If you had bought 1,000 cases of this wine last week, like a week and a half ago,
it sounds like there's probably only 2 bottles in existence.
You would have 10x your money.
I missed the last one, so I'm sure as hell not going to miss this one.
I mean, what? What? Wow.
Yeah, that's got to be, it's one of our records as far as starting reserve and final hammer. I mean, that's just great. And there were 2 of them. That's the funny thing too, is they really wanted both bottles. So
the other one, I mean, that one's a big one in terms of Delta. Maybe one of the biggest, I feel like, is the 69 Chapelet, which we mentioned last week and did not sell through this week. Because what was the last time that was at auction? It started at like a couple grand and went up to $17,500.
Yeah, and I think it's that reserve now, the reserve that the updated reserve price is a little bit scary to many bidders. So that might have to come back down a little bit to hammer, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Did you also see that the 1863 GRT Bull Madeira sold for with after two bids for $12.45?
That's pretty wild. I noticed. Yeah, there's been some really amazing Madeira, including this week, which hopefully we'll get a chance to mention 18th century Madeira even in this week. So yeah, there's that was pretty crazy. I noticed that Pergola Torte 3-liter hammered. We mentioned that, I believe, either. If it wasn't last week, it was the week before. But yeah, just some crazy stuff. A lot of Bond again, some Versailles Cornas, it looks like, hammered at about 575, I think. So that stuff's still going crazy.
Bond setting records: 06 5-bottle horizontal wood case for 1945. The 08 5-bottle horizontal case for 1900. Those are all highs on record. The Pluribus, Pluribus. 850
for the 03. Man, that is
previous high record was 382 in 2021.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
And the most recent hammer was 275 in October.
So I mean, 20-year-old bonds, they're not that easy to find, although I did see there's a whole bunch more in this week. So
there's a ton of Bond in this week.
Yeah, we'll see how they do. And then also it looks like, those Clos Rougeards we mentioned getting a lot of activity.
Yeah.
I think 02 again, they're at least 20 years old or close to 20 years old. The 07 Le Bourg sold for 420 and the 02 Le Bourg sold for 500. So lots of action there. Other Madeiras, 1900 Deliveras hammered at 900.
39 for 470.
Burgundy's still hot too. 13 Ramonet Batard at 850 and the 07 Bienvenue Batard at 755. So those have been just
and the 20 Henri Boileau Batard Montrachet for 800 or 2021. Sorry. Okay, 2021 Kongsgaard the Judge 525 and then 07 Kongsgaard the Judge for 485. Both of those I believe are highs. And then we had this 89 Vegas Sicilia Unico 795. That is also a high. Just some really interesting movement in this last week's auction.
Yeah. And that was, I wanted to mention too, there's a ZD Abacus that was in 21st bottling, which I think is a few years old at this point, but hammered at 500. That stuff is, not cheap. It's very cool. It's a Solera, like multiple, 20 plus vintages, I guess 21st bottling. I don't know if it's actually 21 vintages, but it's great wine and it's got a real serious following. So,
and now it's getting expensive. Well, and that just about wraps up our recap episode with Finally Hammered for WineBid. This has been Jeff McGurn and Paul Walker wishing you happy bidding and cheers.
Cheers.